In 2023, Sony released one of the most versatile cameras known to man, beloved by many, hated by little. This is the Sony A7C II. It was released at the time with the A7CR, but I wanted to cover the A7C II because that's the one I've owned for about 6 months now. Now, because I am filming with the A7C II right now, to also show you guys the image quality and to show you guys that I am just using this camera, I wanted to talk about the cons first of this A7C II. And I wanted to start off with the cons because that's what everyone is probably wondering, what's wrong with the camera? What can I get out of it? But the A7C II, the viewfinder sucks. And if you have glasses like me, if you also maybe have more little eyes, it's a bit more difficult to use the A7C II viewfinder. And I thought it was overrated. It's an overrated feedback that a lot of people gave, that the viewfinder sucks, but after using it for 6 months, it does suck. So even I tried using my right, I tried using my left. It feels unusable at times, especially when the weather's not that favorable. If it's very sunny and you want to use the viewfinder and then you look into it and there's almost nothing. It feels more of a hassle to use rather than it being a pro for this camera. So yeah, the viewfinder sucks. Like it's pretty low in terms of resolution compared to other cameras that I've used. The A7 IV feels like the viewfinder is way better there. Previously as well, my Fuji X-T5, that viewfinder was also good. So yeah, it just sucks. Now going into the next con is this. It's a single SD card slot. So for a lot of people who are in the freelancing industry, trying to make a living using their camera, this could be a deal breaker, especially if you rely on the redundancy of having 2 SD card slots. So just in case one fails to record, the other one's there, or maybe something went wrong with transferring your files. But with the A7C II, you only have 1 SD card slot. Thankfully, it hasn't happened to me yet, but that always weighs heavy on my mind if I was working, for example, in a studio. Maybe I'm working with a client. So I try to find ways to either back up on the shoot itself, like the shoot location itself. So having my laptop having an SD card, SSD, just in case, so that I'm backing up throughout the day. But yeah, that single card slot is definitely an issue that I didn't run into when I was using my A7 IV, which is technically almost the same camera as this. Same sensor, same autofocusing. Oh, scratch that. I think the autofocusing system on this is more updated, which we'll get into. But going into having the A7 IV and then coming into the A7C II, the difference, I'm starting to notice that I did like how safe I felt with the A7 IV. Now, this could be stressful, especially if you are, let's say, a wedding shooter, someone who really can't potentially miss a shot, who sort of relies on that redundancy again. And then honestly, for people who do YouTube and just have personal projects and freelance on the side, I think it works well with that sort of niche, which is, I think this is where it's geared towards, the more casual, not really the prosumer in mind. So I think this one is a good stepping stone, but I would definitely look into either renting a B cam just in case, or having that redundancy again on site, where like maybe a Digitech can help you out. But then at that point, if you're already doing all that, might as well just get another camera to shoot with. But yeah, for personal projects and YouTube and all of this, it's just an amazing camera for that part. But that is a con that you have to be mindful of. Going into another con as well is that the ergonomics. Now, going into the ergonomics, I didn't think I would have that much of an issue with the A7C II, and I don't. A lot of the sort of critiques of the A7C II from people who compare the A7 IV, A7C II, is that it's pretty difficult to use with their hands. But for me, it's a bit easy on my end because I feel comfortable with this camera. So that's a point that you have to also take into consideration, is that are you able to test out this camera before even buying it? Now, going into the ergonomics of it, it does have a shallow grip, so your pinky is going to be sort of hanging when you're holding it like that. So it's going to look like that. And a solution to that they actually figured out is that with the A7CR, this grip extension comes with it. And it's an amazing grip extension because it does feel like the leather does feel like the A7C II's leather as well, the A7CR, but it's a bit expensive for a grip. So if you can find this on FB Marketplace used, that would be my best recommendation. I got this used for a really good deal. And also one thing you have to keep in mind is that with ergonomics, you also have to play the lens in combination with your camera body game. So what that means is that maybe for a, let's say a 35mm f1.8, you don't need this. But if you are using, let's say a 70-200 f4 or f2.8, then maybe this might be a good consideration on your end, or maybe even beefing up your camera body with a cage. But then that goes into maybe just increasing content friction that otherwise maybe you could have just gotten an A7 IV. So you need to play this game. So when you are planning to borrow the A7C II, try also borrowing a lens to combine it and see which ones you're going to use. Because for me, using the big zooms, I made a video on this already on the channel. It's probably up by now. It feels good. Using the 70-200 f4, the version 2, even when it's extended, even with a telephoto teleconverter attached to it, it feels good, like on the A7C II, without this attached as well. So imagine when it's attached, I think it's fine, but that's just for my hand. Now, for a lot of people with ginormous hands, like even the A7 IV might not work for them. So you have to be kind of mindful of this when you are planning to purchase a camera. An important note as well from the comment section from you, the people commenting on my videos usually, that a lot of you use the A7CR and you enjoy using other lenses with the A7CR. And the A7CR and the A7C II have pretty much the same body, like the same size, the same sort of ergonomics with it. Probably trying to find the comments that are talking about the A7CR, but I asked one person commenting about using the A7CR with his lenses, with his array of lenses, and he finds it fine. Like a lot of people like it. It could be potentially a con, but for a lot of people as well, they enjoy using it. Now let's actually go into the pros, the thing that might convince you to finally hit the buy button on this A7C II. The full frame image quality is amazing in such a compact body. I have experience using the ZVE1. The image on that was amazing, and I can say that the A7C II is almost, if not comparable. So the only downside that I would say is that its ability in low light in comparison to the ZVE1 is a bit lower. However, I find that using this A7C II and getting the images that I want from it, I really think the sensor that is on this camera is amazing. I've had the A7 IV and it's the same, almost the same sensor. And then this one has the updated firmware as well that allows you to get lots of features, the AI features, the DAS, the updated dynamic active stabilization on it. It just becomes a more comparable camera to buy in comparison to the ZVE1, and maybe even in comparison to the A7 IV. So for the autofocus, it's just something that you don't really have to think about too much, especially because it is a Sony, has the updated firmware and has updated, technology in the autofocus. So I think if you are a photographer, a videographer, focus has to be one of those key aspects that you have to maintain, because given that color science and all that, if you're shooting RAW, shooting log, I think you can really manipulate the images to the way you want. But if you're having focusing issues like I was having with the Fujifilm line, then it might be a bit more sus to use. Now, I mentioned the ZVE1. I made videos on that already on this channel talking about why I switched from the ZVE1 to the A7C II. So I won't go in depth into that too much. That's a whole nother video on its own, and it's already in the channel. But I wanted to say that both of these cameras are designed for creators and mostly designed for people who want something compact. Speaking of compact, it's designed for compact lenses. And on top of that, I have videos on that too on this channel. But to give you a brief rundown, the 24-50 f2.8 lens that I'm shooting right now is such an amazing combination with the A7C II, the A7CR. There's other combinations as well that work well with this camera. The 24mm f2.5 or 2.8, the 40mm f2.5 or 2.8 again, and then the 50mm f2.5, I think. Now those are an amazing line of lenses that I think work well with this. And one thing I've been using as well that I really like is the 11mm f1.8 on this, which is the APS-C lens, but it works well with this because, again, I mentioned that because of the updates and all this camera is so versatile now that if you do DAS, dynamic active stabilization, you can punch in, you can use APS-C mode because of the 33 megapixels. Just a versatile camera now. And on top of that, one of my favorite builds for this when I'm taking it as a street photography camera would be the Samyang 35mm f2.8. It's sort of a very versatile, again, lens that I use in combination with the A7C II. So now that I've been using this for about 6 months now, maybe even more when the time of this is getting posted, the video quality on this, when I look back to the A7C II, the ZVE1, the A7 IV, I noticed that the ZVE1 does have more of that feel that it looks a little bit more, it has more depth to it, and I don't know how to explain it too much, but it might also be the sensor differences, and that makes sense because this one is taking the sensor from the A7 IV and that one's taking the sensor from the FX3. So although I see improvements on the ZVE1 in terms of the quality of footage that I can get out of it, it's not enough for me to give that up. It's not enough for me to give up the versatility of the A7C II, is what I wanted to say or summarize. But the thing that really separates the A7C II from the ZVE1 would be the photo quality. So using this as a main photo camera for me now, it's such an amazing camera to use, even despite its limitations on the viewfinder and other things. Using it as a photo camera is such a blast in comparison to the ZVE1. So whatever I'm losing on, let's say, the video low light capabilities, I'm gaining more in the photo aspect, and that is a big part of my 2025 to 2026 workflow is taking a lot more photos. I've been doing lots more shoots with models, doing lots more shoots with clients. So it makes more sense for me to have this camera for the foreseeable future until, again, I mentioned on this channel my dream camera. We'll see if we'll get it 2026. Now, something that I noticed that not a lot of people talk about the A7C II or just Sony in general is the film simulations or the Sony simulations. I've been messing around with it. It's basically the knockoff of the Fuji line film sims. And for me, the workflow that I have right now with the film sims is amazing because I'm able to really manipulate the images the way that I wanted to. But I have lots of work to do on the Sony simulations. But yeah, I think that's an amazing thing to work with. I'm probably showing the photos right now of what I used or what I've shot with the Sony simulations. One issue I'm having right now is that I'm worried that it's affecting the actual photo itself, like the raw photo itself. And I think Gerald Undone did a video on how it potentially affects it. So I'm going to try to find it and link it either in the description or in the cards, but just be wary that it could potentially affect your raw image. So if you are shooting, let's say a client, maybe stray away from that and just use the standard color profile and then use your Sony simulations when you're doing more fun stuff. Who's this camera actually for? I think this camera is for people who want something lightweight. It's not as light as the Osmo Nano, obviously, but if it's lightweight enough where it doesn't become too much friction on your end to shoot on a daily. I think that's the most important part of 2026 is that shooting as much as you can. If you can bring your camera, especially if you don't really use it as much, then I think having this camera will definitely beat maybe if you bought a A7 IV FX3 but you don't take it out, then I think this camera is for you. I think it also works for people in the creator niche. If you do vlogs, if you do street photography, if you even do casual client work, because of what we mentioned of the lack of redundancy, then I think this could play as a really good camera for you this 2026. Now I wanted to leave you guys with a quote: "A camera that stays at home is the most expensive camera you can buy." And with that, if you guys enjoyed this video, click on one of this. I'll see you guys there when I see you.